to another episode of The Fearcast. This is the podcast dedicated to OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders and getting your life back. I'm your host, Kevin Foss, and I'm a licensed therapist specializing in OCD and anxiety disorders. And thank you all so much for joining me, for either listening on whatever podcast format you check it out on, whether or not you're going over to fearcastpodcast.com and listening to it directly through the website, whether or not you're watching over at YouTube. So, by the way, it is on YouTube. If you just Google Fearcast Podcast YouTube, I'm sure it'll pop up or something like that. But uploading these as much as I can. You've heard my drama about trying to get the video up. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is the Fearcast Podcast. This is a question and answer based show. If you have questions about OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders, shoot me an email, give me a call, message me. I'm a Fearcast Podcast over at Instagram. You can send me questions over there. You can send me audio questions over there, which cut to the top of the list. We haven't gotten any audio questions in a while, but remember, those do get shifted to the top of the list to be the next recorded episode. But if you want some more anonymity, you can also send me just a text question. You can go over to fearcastpodcast.com. You can send me a question over there. You can send me a text question over at Instagram as well by sending me a DM. Both work. You can send me your audio question by emailing it, recording it on your phone, emailing it to me at questions@fearcastpodcast.com. So lots of ways to get that question in. I'm working on just a phone line where you can just call and record your voice directly in. I will get it. We will put it up. So anyways, it's in the works. We'll talk about that soon. But either way, so I've got a great question today that comes from M. So they sent this question in, and it's a good one. It's a good one about POCD. But I think that also can certainly generalize to anybody who's struggling with a taboo-related obsession. So a concern that, a taboo-related obsession is one of those obsessional themes that's kind of, it's not the one we're supposed to talk about in polite society. Generally, they have to do with violence or sex, if we're just being honest about it. So it can be POCD, so pedophile OCD. It can be harm OCD, so violent thoughts about towards yourself or other people. It can be, sexual orientation obsessions, formerly known as HOCD. It can be ones about, transgender OCD. It can be ones about bestiality OCD. So we've worked with and talked about all of these at some points, and all of them ultimately at the end of the day are just regular old OCD, just with a specific theme that, may have its own eccentricities sometimes. But either way, I think this question will generalize across the board. But I think it's also really good. It's just a really good question. So we'll jump into that in a little bit. But before we jump off, I wanted to make an announcement. So the private practice I run, the California OCD and Anxiety Treatment Center, we're going to be starting a group soon. And if you're interested in it, we're going to have more information coming up online soon. I'll put it up on my practice website. But it's going to be a group specifically designed for POCD, but specifically for men struggling with POCD. So it'll be an online-based thing. I think we're going to start it just for right now for folks in California, and then depending on how much interest there is or success it has, we might broaden that out nationwide. But wanted to throw that out there that's going to be in the works. There are some POCD groups out there or support groups out there which are great, but we wanted to offer one specific for men, and it's not to discriminate against women. We can certainly look into doing one specific for women, but one of the folks on staff with Cal OCD, his name is Jerry. He's a fantastic clinician. Will be running it, and this is kind of his idea to reach out to men who may feel like talking about these subjects in a traditional group or in another support group, it doesn't feel safe for them, or they may not be willing to in, as it were, mixed company. So we wanted to have a group specific just for men to be able to share what the experiences they have struggling with POCD, what exposures may be more difficult for men, what it's like for them, and just to offer encouragement. It's going to be some psychoeducation involved with it. We're going to be going over just from the very beginning, what is POCD, what's treatment for it look like, and then going through, building your hierarchy, talking about mindfulness, talking about the shame and guilt associated with it. So we're putting that program together, and that will be up hopefully it'll be available for sign up in the next couple of months. If you're interested, you can shoot me an email over at kevin@calocd.com. That's my email address. So you can message me over there if you're interested in finding out more information about it. But I'll be announcing more information as we go. So outside of that, I hope everybody is doing well. Again, we're TikToking, getting close to the conference. I'm kind of excited, nervous for the conference. I get what I call conference nightmares for like 6 months after the conference. This will be the first conference I've gone to, for a long time, maybe more than a decade, where I'm not presenting at, and I'm just going to go and learn and just hang out. And I'm kind of excited for that, to not have to be somewhere. But I always would get these nightmares of like walking around some place that my brain says is the conference place, and I can't seem to find anything, and the rooms keep changing, and I don't know what's happening. And I'm sure some more psychodynamic related or oriented person out there is, I don't know, saying I have some unresolved thing with my mom. I don't know. Fill in the blank. Go have fun with it. But either way, it's that's what's going to happen for me, and I'm going to go anyways, even though I'm going to be uncomfortable. My social anxiety is going to be off the charts because I hate talking to people. I say that as a therapist, but it's the going and meeting new people and trying to introduce myself, and it's awkward, and I'm not good at it. But you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to give it my darndest try and probably embarrass myself. And good. I hope I get better at it. But more importantly, I'm going to go. Actually, no, it's not true. More importantly, I'm also going to go to the Chicago Music Exchange because it's a big music store in Chicago, and I kind of want to go. So that's what I'm going to do. So anyways, if you are going to go, say hi, high five. If you're going to go visit online and go watch some of the things online, that's going to be fantastic. Let's see. I have nothing else to share. I don't know. Nothing else to share at this time. So let's, other than the mustache is back. I realized I don't shave. I don't trim my mustache as much as I should. So I just wake up and suddenly realize it's longer than it was the day before. And it catches up on you. I don't know if any other beard havers or mustache havers have had this experience. You're just living your life, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, it's so long. It's problematic. And it's much grayer than it used to be. Anyways, but that's to be expected. Either way. So it's longer, so I'm curling it. That's what I look like. All right. It's very weird. Anyways, this is the drama of my life. All right. Let's jump into this. All right. So this question comes from M. M says, "Hi, Kevin. I recently found your podcast while looking around for help while going into an OCD spiral, and it really helped. Calm me and make me feel safe and in control again. It also really helps to know that you're not alone, and there are people out there who understand what you're going through and can help you with it to some extent. Actually, before I go on, that's pretty much the purpose of the podcast right there, is to know that there are other people out there. You're experiencing it. This is why I want it to be questioned and answered. They're coming from you, the listener. I have never come up with any question on my own. I'm never going to fabricate anything. Why would I go through the effort to fabricate something when real people struggle with these things? And it's more important that they come from y'all than from my silly brain. So that is the purpose of it, because there's going to be some person on the opposite end of the world who does not have access to a therapist, who does not have access to good information. And I wanted to show that people out there all over the world are experiencing similar thoughts, or might be experiencing the same thought as you. So that's the purpose of it. So, I'm so glad it's been helpful. All right, they go on to say, for some context, I've been struggling with OCD in some form or another since I was 11, so for about 16 years now. Somewhere around 14 or so, I developed POCD, and I have to say, even though I know I should accept it, they say, it was the one obsession that I could choose to not, or if it was the one that I could choose to not have, I would not have that one. My question specifically relates to POCD. I would like to seek out help for this condition, But one of my OCD fears is that if I go to a therapist, even an OCD specialist, even a POCD specialist, they will realize that I'm actually a pedophile and I don't have POCD at all. This is not exactly the fear of being mistakenly diagnosed as a pedophile, but more like the hypochondriac fear, which I also have, of going to the doctor and finding out that I actually do have cancer or some other terrible illness. They say, I don't want to go to the doctor because I'm afraid that they will look at my symptoms and say, yeah, that's cancer. Similarly, I'm afraid of going to a therapist because I'm afraid that they will look at my thoughts, obsessions, and compulsions and say, yeah, that's pedophilia. Conversely, I'm afraid that I will lie to the therapist, leave something out, or misrepresent myself in a better light than I actually deserve, or else I'm afraid of simply not actually being in my, I'm afraid that by simply not being in my head and being able to judge my feelings and thoughts from the inside, the therapist will miss that I actually am a pedophile and wrongly diagnose me as POCD. And I'm afraid right now, in writing this question, that you will say, that's not POCD, that's pedophilia. You don't say that would be the fear that you would have. Anyways, they say, have you ever seen someone with these types of fears? And what can I do about them so I can actually start thinking about getting the help I need for this? So, Em, thank you so much. This is a great question, and this is an obstacle that I've certainly seen in folks where they don't want to see a therapist. They don't want to take the leap and reach out and talk to a doctor, talk to a therapist, talk to a LCSW, whatever it is, or just simply share this because they're afraid, just as you said, that maybe that they're going to misdiagnose and say, well, it comes in a lot of different flavors, right? So as you said, it's, maybe they're going to actually miss it and say, no, they're going to say, well, no, it's not POCD. Well, it's pedophilia. Or they're going to miss it and go, well, it's not POCD. Wait, did I reverse that? It's not POCD. It's actually pedophilia. Or they're going to say, no, it's not pedophilia when it really is. And they're going to say, no, you're, quote, you just have POCD, right? So, it's these subtle caveats in it, but it's kind of this fear of missing the right thing. And I wonder if for you, as it has been for some, I'm hearing flavors of it in this is what if you're going to miss the right diagnosis? They're going to mess it up, or you're going to mess it up, and they're going to have the wrong diagnosis. So you're not going to get the care that you need. That can be one fear, and that's certainly a fear that one can have. But the other is, like, you already have this worry that, like, oh no, like that's the OCD thought, right? So with pedophile OCD, for anybody who's new, POCD, pedophile OCD, is obsessive compulsive disorder. So obsessive thoughts, oh no, what if something is true about me or not true about me? Or what if I do something and this happens? Or what if I don't do something and that happens? I don't want that. Well, it makes me feel anxious. Well, I don't like feeling anxiety and I don't like feeling uncertain. So I'm going to do something about it to try to make myself feel more confident, or I'm going to ensure that bad thing doesn't happen, or at the very least, I just feel better. So do the thing. That's the compulsion. It can be avoidance or reassurance seeking, or it can be a ritualistic behavior. It can be a lot of things. So once you do that thing, you get relief. But it also reinforces the thought. Compulsions work for a short time until they don't. But they tell your brain to this thought that is silly and doesn't make any sense and doesn't reflect who you truly are, and you're terrified of it and you don't want it. It reinforces the thought itself by saying, oh, this thought's important. In fact, here's the right way to deal with this is through compulsion. Not through ignoring it, not through saying, well, that's a silly thought and moving on with your life as you would like, because you've told yourself 1,000 times you're not a pedophile. You've said, I'm willing to bet. You've told yourself, this is not me. This is not what I'm into. This is not what I like. I don't want this thought. This thought has nothing to do with me or my interests or my genuine attractions, and yet it persists. And it persists because you spend a lot of time on this. And that's how those thoughts get reinforced. right? Now, they are scary. To have this accusation leveled against you that says you are the opposite of who you believe yourself to be. You are this terrible, horrible, bad thing. And you go, but I'm not this terrible, horrible, bad thing. And then it says, prove it. And that's where the compulsion comes in. It's like, again, it's like my son or my daughter saying, Dad, you're Cookie Monster. And I go, but I'm not. And they go, prove it. Well, am I going to spend time proving to my 7 and 4-year-old that I am not Cookie Monster? Well, I could spend that time. I could show them what Cookie Monster looks like, and they can see me. I can show them, the Cookie Monster is a puppet, and that no one has it doesn't matter. But it's that I'm not a puppet. Point is, I could do that, and they can go, okay, but I still don't believe you, Cookie Monster. And then I'm back to the races. Now I'm constantly in this cycle of trying to prove to these kids that I'm not Cookie Monster. Ugh. Kids are the worst sometimes, not believing that I'm actual human. Anyways, but this is how those thoughts get reinforced, right? So our ultimate goal, like with the Cookie Monster question, hey, Dad, you're Cookie Monster. Okay. And to move on with my day. I'm not going to fight with them on that question. I'm going to live my life. And if they want to think I'm Cookie Monster for a short bit, cool. Live your dreams, kids. But I know who I am. OCD doesn't let you just simply off the hook that way. We have to choose. We have to fight for that by saying, fine, whatever. And we disregard it. By taking the compulsion and pulling it out, sitting with that uncomfortable feeling and that uncomfortable accusation, and moving on with our day. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff we can go into that. All right, so for you, M, so you got this fear. This fear stops people from going in because they're terrified again. They're not going to get the treatment that they want, or the treatment that they ought to get, or they're going to be misdiagnosed as something that they're already terrified that they are, right? What if I am indeed a pedophile? Okay. So this is kind of that, I'm going to call this Schrodinger's pedophile. All right. Now, if you've never heard of Schrodinger's cat is a mental exercise where it's kind of this idea. And anyways, it doesn't matter how it was produced. I'm going to screw it up anyways. Here's the setup. There's this box. You can't see in it. You can't hear what's inside of it. There's this closed, sealed box. Inside this box, they put a live cat. And then inside that box, they also put I think it was a radioactive thing. They put poison in there that somehow is going to open and explode and is going to kill the cat, right? And they close up this box. Now, you don't know when the little vial of radioactive stuff is going to go off and kill this cat, but you know it's going to go off. But has it gone off? We don't know. But will it soon? I don't know. Has it already? I don't know. So the idea is that in that box, at any moment, the cat is both alive and dead at the exact same time until you open it. And once you open it, then you discover the truth. But if the cat's dead, did you just kill the cat? Well, you would say no, because, the nuclear thing inside of it killed the cat. The radioactive thing killed the cat. But did it? With the box sealed, you can't see, hear, anything like that inside of it. We don't know. But is both alive and dead at the exact same time. So it's a metaphysical exercise. Anyways, doesn't matter. So it's Schrodinger's pedophile. It's kind of this fear that you're talking about where you are saying, well, I don't believe that I am. OCD says that you are. And then it says, well, then it suggests, if you go, then you're going to know. And what if it is the worst thing? What if it's cancer, right? I don't want to go to the doctor. My mom would say, you never get sick until you go to the doctor, which is preposterous. It's obviously not true, Mom. Anyways, you're never sick until you go to the doctor because the doctor tells you how you're sick. You're obviously sick. You felt sick, but you never get a diagnosis until you go to the doctor. Okay, it's preposterous things that I heard. All right, what we want to do with this is that you're stuck in. I'm hearing that you're stuck in this never-ending cycle. Should I go? Should I not go? I want to go because I want to get treatment, but I don't want to go because I don't want to find out the worst thing could be true. But so anyway, so you're back to this rumination and this back and forth and playing every scenario out to try to figure out what's going to be the exact right thing to do so that you can know what's the right way to say it, what's the right way to convince the doctor of exactly what you're going through. Because if they know exactly what you're going through, then they're never going to miss it. You're going to get the exact proper right diagnosis, and then you're going to live happily ever after. Sounds nice, right? Here's the problem. You can go through that whole process 1,000 times over, and your brain will then say, yeah, but what if they still misunderstand? Well, now that you're back to the beginning, now you have to figure out an even tighter explanation, an even ironclad way to share what you're going through. And there's never a way to do that because there's always the question of uncertainty. What if they simply don't understand? What if you mispronounce something? What if I don't know, you could answer anything, right? It's because there will always be something that will put that into question. There is the reality of uncertainty in this process, M, that you will have to accept in order to get treatment that you're saying that you want and you're saying that you need. And that's the possibility that one or both or an entire third thing that you and I can't even imagine happens when you go in to see this therapist. Now, I think you're right. You ought to go and see a OCD specialist. If you can find someone who is specifically a POCD specialist. Now, I will say, I don't think there really are POCD specialists. There are probably people who enjoy treating POCD more than others. That may be one thing. But I would encourage you to find someone who is an OCD specialist who understands what POCD is, along with all the other subtypes that you might be experiencing or that anybody might be experiencing, because they're going to know the types of questions to ask to try to route out whether or not these thoughts are egosyntonic or dystonic. And they're going to have a better understanding of what thoughts are, what compulsions do, what compulsions are, especially when it comes to POCD, and to be able to suss out whether or not this reflects more of a POCD experience or whether it's something else that may point in a different direction, not just pedophilia, but in a different direction to perhaps a different diagnosis. All that to say is go find a OCD specialist and take the risk to share what you're going through as best you can, not perfectly, but as best you can. You did the best that you could in your email to me. I may have misread it. I may have put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. I might have messed that up for you, and I'm sorry if I did. And yet, this is one of those realities that we experience, and this is one of the realities that I have to struggle with as a podcaster, as a therapist, and as a human. But as a podcaster, I read these things and I go, I don't know. I'm going to go with what's written here, and I'm going to kind of make stuff up that is maybe missing or that might be there or could be there. But the point is, it's imperfect. And that's the reality of life, and that's the reality of communication. You may miss something in the way that you share it. They may mishear something. They may misunderstand something. But the nice thing is, and this is the goal, you can go in to see this doctor, go in to see this therapist, explain what's going on, and trust that they're going to ask follow-up questions, that they're going to do their darndest to try to understand what you're going through, and they're going to talk with you about what they're hearing and why they're coming to that conclusion. And I ask this at the end of every assessment. I say, is there anything else that you'd want to add? After I kind of go through everything and kind of give them my spiel or my interpretation of what I'm hearing. And then I'll say, like, hey, is there anything else that you think would give me a clearer idea of what you're experiencing? And what that question does is it ultimately gives them the opportunity to say, well, I think you missed something. Okay, great. Let's hear it. Let's see what you want to share to help me better understand your experience. And I hope that this therapist would do the same for you. Now, I can't answer, and I'm simply not going to try to answer whether I think it's POCD or whether I think it's pedophilia. Here's the thing. In my assessments with folks, I hear what people are going through, and I'm, trying to suss things out. And I'm going with, well, it sounds more like POCD, or it might sound like more like pedophilia, which is an extremely rare thing. And I'm going to point them in the right direction, or I'm going to say, hey, let's go do treatment. I have had folks in the past go see a pedophilia specialist. Pedophilia specialists are going to hear, oh, you have thoughts about pedophilia, you're probably a pedophile. They are probably not going to be asking the OCD questions. And by the way, Em, you messaged me, the OCD podcaster guy. There's something within you that really believes this is, quote, just pedophilia, or excuse me, just pedophilia OCD, just POCD, right? There's the doubt that says, but maybe it's not. And that's where the OCD is. Trust yourself in this, that you think it is POCD, and take the risk and go see a therapist. And you're going to find out what they have to say. And if you don't like it, you can go see another therapist and you can get a follow-up question. Now, I know or a follow-up assessment. There's a lot of people out there who are going to be very mad at me for having said that. But if it feels way off or it feels like they really don't understand you, they might not be a therapist for you. There's a lot of bad therapists out there and they're going to miss stuff. I miss stuff from time to time. And that's normal because, like we talked about, you're human and they're human. And we might miss things, and that's okay. So here's what we're ultimately then trying to do with this, is to take the risk that maybe they're going to miss it and they're maybe going to misdiagnose you. One thing you can do in preparation for this is look at the compulsions that you're doing around setting up an appointment and try to progressively pull back on the amount of time that you're spending ruminating about what's the right thing to say, ruminating about or searching for the exact right perfect therapist to go to who's truly going to understand you. Thinking about maybe it's a compulsion of playing out every single scenario. Maybe it's writing out your exact script on what you would say. Maybe you're concerned about you're trying to think about questions that you can grill the therapist to make sure that they really understand POCD. All of these things can be compulsive behavior. So I want you to challenge yourself to resist engaging with that. To say you might miss it, you might miscommunicate it, but say that thought process is it's impossible to get a full solid answer out of it. And simply saying that's a thought process I'm not going to engage with. You can use the I blank on the names all the time. Non-engagement responses to it, and say, man, I really want to figure this out. You do. You can say there's that urge to really want to figure this out. You can acknowledge that you're having thoughts that they're misdiagnosing you. Yeah, you can say, man, I have a lot of thoughts right now that they're going to misdiagnose me. Yeah, you do. You do have those thoughts. But we also then say in response to it, and I'm not going to engage with it. Instead, I'm going to go engage with anything else, right? What I am hearing as well is the compulsion of avoidance. You're not wanting to go because you're circling the drain with this rumination. Instead, challenge yourself to find a therapist and call. If you need help from a family member you can kind of work with to try to find someone who sounds fine, great. Call them, schedule, go forward with it. And then in the process between the time that you call and the time that the appointment is, resist that rumination. We've talked about this when it comes to health anxiety, right? When you feel a new health thing come up, schedule with a doctor. But that doctor's appointment might be a couple of weeks, couple of months away. So what do you do between now and then? We resist rumination. We resist compulsive behavior as best we can. It may not be necessary in those cases to do intentional active exposures with it because life is already giving you that sense of uncertainty. Life is giving you intrusive thoughts. Life is giving you unwanted intrusive images, right? Physical sensations, all of this stuff. That's where we're practicing response prevention and resisting trying to answer the question, get to the bottom of it, get that emotional security, but instead to say, I'm uncomfortable by this thought. This thought sucks, and I'm going to let the anxiety pass because I've got my doctor's appointment in 2 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is. I'll deal with it then. But between now and then, I'm not going to engage with it. You could engage with a script if you wanted to. You can engage with a script of writing out both these scenarios or even more scenarios, right? I go to the doctor's office, I explain all my symptoms, and they go, no, you're a pedophile. And then they quickly usher in all these other medical professionals. The police are there, firefighters are there, I don't know, Dave Matthews shows up. I don't know. Just everybody shows up and they usher you off to the hospital forever, right? Or they diagnose you as POCD and they say, well, this is super weird. We need to put you up on a list. It's going to go on the news, just to let you know. Everyone's going to know that you now have POCD. So I hope, but we need to protect the public, right? You can write out these stories and they're going to be uncomfortable. But the purpose of these scripts isn't to then say, I'm happy with them, or that they are good, or to then engage with anything that disproves it. We're ultimately saying this is uncomfortable, and I'm going to practice allowing for my body and my brain to experience discomfort and anxiety and uncertainty without doing anything about it. Trusting that this anxiety will go away. By the way, this anxiety will go away. It always will. So we're saying, I can feel anxious, but I don't need to go out of my way in the service of this anxiety in order to go live my life. Instead, I'm going to trust that the uncertainty is going to go away at some point. The discomfort related to that uncertainty is going to pass. It might come back, it will come back, and it'll go away again. But I don't need to waste my time, my life, stopping what I'm doing and engaging with this thought that I know doesn't really get me anywhere anyways. And then going out and living your life. So the end result of OCD treatment, I would say, isn't that you don't have anxiety, but is that you may have anxiety and that you don't engage with unnecessary, unreasonable, compulsive behavior. So you're basically being open to having emotional experiences as humans sometimes do, and then letting that feeling pass on its own while you go live the best life that you possibly can. So, I'll let you go here. But so the answer is yes. I have seen folks who have this fear. I have seen folks who are concerned that maybe I'm going to miss something, and they spend a lot of time trying to convince me exactly with what their experience is, and it's simply impossible because I don't live in their head. I don't. And there's a certain amount of uncertainty that I have that maybe I'm going to miss it. Maybe they're miscommunicating it. Maybe I'm missing a whole other diagnosis that I should. There's uncertainty on my end too, Em. But that's what we do here in OCD land, is that we work on tolerating uncertainty and doing the best that we can to go and live the life as best you can. So go take the risk. Go find a doctor. Communicate as best you can and follow the treatment plan. You got this. You can do this. Podcasts like this exist for a reason. Podcasts like everybody else's exist for a reason, because OCD is experienced by a lot of people, millions and millions of people. Millions of people have also, or OCD has also tried to convince people that they don't have OCD. It's another game that it tries to play. So go take the risk. So, and as I say at the end of every podcast, take a risk. Challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Same here in this case too, Em. So thank you so much for this question. Everybody else, if I missed something, if I miscommunicated something and you want me to add something, go over to fearcastpodcast.com, send me a message and tell me what I missed, and I will add it. If you want to add it to the Instagram page, go do it there. I'd love to hear from you, love to hear what I missed, and I will add it. And we'll do the best that we can, because you know what? That's what we're all trying to do. So, all right, everybody, until then, as I said before, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Fearcast. If you would like your question answered on a future episode, please click on the Submit a Question link at fearcastpodcast.com. If you would like your question answered sooner, please send me a recording of your question to questions@fearcastpodcast.com, or by sending me an audio message through Instagram by DMing me at fearcastpodcast on Instagram. If you like the Fearcast, please write a review on your podcast platform of choice. Please remember that the Fearcast is not a substitute for psychotherapy. If you need a little bit of help in your recovery, please go over to fearcastpodcast.com and click on the Find Help link, and there's going to be some information for you there. So until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Bye.